Today with us we have Daniel. He completed his masters in AI from Aston University and he would like to share his experience so that you guys can know a lot more about the course and similar courses at Aston University. And if you're looking for this particular course, you'll be able to make a better and informed decision. In this video, we will talk about the course content, course curriculum, teaching methodology, and resources that were provided to him so that you guys can know how the course was and what kind of things were taught and how the assessments were carried out. In next sections, we will talk about the life of a student in general and the support that was provided to him by career service team, and was it worth the money, and the challenges that he faced and how did he overcome those challenges. So we wanted to cover all of those things, but if we cover everything in one video, this video will become much more longer, and I have kept this video very much unfiltered so that you guys can listen to everything that Daniel had to say. Thanks, Daniel, for joining. I hope this session is going to be very helpful for a lot of our viewers, and I would like to just get to know a little bit about you, like your background, your experience. Then we will go into some of the detailed questions. So yeah, over to you.
Okay. My background. My name is Daniel Caldo. I have an undergraduate background in civil engineering. I did civil engineering for my undergraduate in Nigeria, and after working as a civil engineer for about a year, I decided to go into a new profession. So I decided to go into AI, having had some experiences with some friends who had done computer science and working with them on some few non-official projects. I started looking for a university to transition into, computer science and the rest. And then I saw the program at Aston's that was doing artificial intelligence, and obviously AI is the buzzword for the past few years. So I decided to look at their program, and I went through what they were offering at the time, because what they're offering now is slightly different than what they were offering when I started my program. Um, wasn't quite interesting because for me it was mixing artificial intelligence with business strategy. So I felt like, okay, how do we take artificial intelligence and how do we turn it into money, basically, right? And so I took the course, and I recently graduated in the course. I got a distinction, so we thank God. And it was a fun experience. It gave me a different view of how AI and and data is being used globally anyway.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, congratulations on your
Thank you.
graduation, that too with distinction, because I'm pretty sure this is a big thing. And I totally agree. AI is definitely is the future, and there's so many things happening in AI. All the companies are investing so much money in the AI realm. So yes, I totally agree. And I think it is going to be a good decision. My first question was, how was the rigor of the course? Was it paced properly for someone who has no experience in data science? And were you able to pick up those concepts as and when you moved further in the course?
At Aston, ironically, at Aston, they had three different programs. So we had data science. So when I joined, that was a separate program. They had applied AI, which was a separate course. They had AI with business strategy, and they had AI, just AI. So the entry requirements for each of them were different.
Right.
For data science, since it was in the Department of Mathematics, I didn't really know what the entry distance for. But for applied AI with business strategy and AI, the way Aston handled it at the time was, if someone had no background in engineering or any of the sciences, they were in applied AI. If someone had an engineering background, they were in artificial intelligence with business strategy. And if they had a computer science background, they were in AI.
Right.
So for someone that had an engineering background, in engineering, we didn't do a lot of programming, but we did like one or two basic programming. We did like C and the rest. And I had some previous experience in like Java, JavaScript. It was not as much as a steep curve because the language you have to learn is Python. But for someone that had no experience with computer science at all, it could be or with programming at all, it could be a bit more steep.
Right.
The only thing I did like with AI compared to other fields of computer science is you if you understood the concept, because a lot of AI is maths. If you understood the concepts behind the maths, the programming you can with ChatGPT and the rest, you can get along with the programming. But
True.
you have to understand the basic theoretical frameworks or concepts behind what you're using f- first before you be if you can get that part handled, then implementing different solutions I think is fairly easy with the help of large language models like ChatGPT and
ChatGPT. Yeah, yeah, totally agree. So it is safe to say that if you are someone who is looking for masters in data science and if you know absolutely no programming, it's better to at least understand basic constructs of Python programming, and then it
yes,
will help you a little because as you mentioned, it's easy to use ChatGPT, but then what if you get some error? It will become like a nightmare to resolve those errors if
yeah,
ChatGPT is not able to help you. So
yeah.
it totally makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. You do have some concept of now I would also add like it also has to be some level of perseverance, as in you may get an error, obviously, but obviously then you have to ask other people, you have to carry the error back into ChatGPT and ask it to explain the error, because sometimes errors might be slight errors, maybe they've depreciated a um particular line of code. So what that means is basically is when they updated the coding, the framework, that particular word you use for that thing is no more used, they
Mm,
replaced with another word. So it's not like it's not working. Maybe you're using code that is not up to date. So you run
true.
into issues like that, for example, and data type issues on the rest. So these are issues that I believe um with time you could there's something that I don't think they'll be stumbling, but for someone who is interested, because you have to be very, very interested in and there are going to be days where you don't understand anything you're doing.
True.
But that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. As long as you are willing to, learn, you should be able to figure it out.
Exactly, exactly. I totally agree. I mean, if you're getting into the world of data science and AI, you have to have that motivation to learn new stuff because every day there's something new. And if you're someone who is like, no, I've learned everything, I don't want to learn anything, then it's going to be very
Yeah.
difficult. So I
Yeah.
definitely agree to your point,
I don't know where we'll talk about this later, but I wanted to just mention that so the program I did at Aston, they were no longer offering it in that format.
right?
Yeah, so the as I mentioned before, there were three different AI categories. As I went last, I checked their admission page, maybe a few last week. They had merged data science and AI together. They had a specific AI for healthcare purposes, and they still have the main AI. But applied AI and AI with business strategy were no longer being offered. Though maybe they may bring them back, but at this moment they're not being offered. So that was so that in case someone may say, "Oh, I want to do what I did right now," it's
Yeah.
not there presently. So they might not bring it back.
Right. Yeah, that is really helpful. Thanks for mentioning that. And I think the next question is partly related to that only, where I want to understand the course structure. Were they covering those core concepts like statistics, machine learning, deep learning, big data technologies? And how was it varied from one course to another course? Because as you mentioned, there are different type of variations of AI courses. So how was
Yeah.
it differed in each and every stream?
For the different streams, we shared courses. So the difference really wasn't really in the modules that we were doing, but rather in the what other extra models we could do. So for applied AI students, they could do a few AI. They had because of they had no background, no technical background, there's no engineering science, there's no STEM background and put like that. They were allowed to pick more courses from computer science and AI as well. So their whole program wasn't really AI. They did some computer science because they needed to get more some of the basics of like data structures and algorithms,
Right.
and then some AI courses like machine learning, for example. So they had more of do what you want kind of scenario, and then some more advanced AI courses were they were allowed to do some of them, for example. For us in AI business strategy, we did very similar courses with AI. All the core courses were the same. We did machine learning, We had a course called AI Vision and Reality, which talks about like the vision and reality of AI in the world, what exists today and what could exist tomorrow, for example, right? And how we should handle that with ethics as well. We had maths for AI, which was basically the mathematical frameworks behind AI, for example. We had that, and then we had deep learning, like computer vision, natural language processing, which falls under like what ChatGPT does. And then we had other business courses, for example, which were like strategic management, entrepreneurship, big data, which was a bit similar to machine learning, if I'm to be fair. We had that, and then the AI guys had the same similar basic courses, but they had additional courses like data mining, computational intelligence, which is a very interesting part of AI, but it's not mainstream. Well, it's not mainstream for the public, for the average person, but it's used in everyday this thing, computational intelligence. And then they had robotics, which
Right.
we in business strategy didn't do, for example. Oh, I should mention as well, as much as I mentioned AI, Aston does also offer a robotics program as
Wow.
well, which is separate from these other programs as well. They offer a robotics program. Though you have to have, I think, an engineering background
Mhm.
specifically in mechanical around that, computer science or so, but they do offer robotics if people are also interested in that.
Yeah, that's actually good to
Um,
know, I think, because um I've talked to a couple of people. They were specifically interested in robotic courses. So, if and there are very few universities which are offering these kind of courses. So, thanks for mentioning that as well.
yeah. Yeah, and another thing with Aston is Aston now has an AI course for undergraduate level. So if you have anyone that's interested in which is more broad,
Mm.
because unlike a master's program, which is a year, you have obviously 3 years, for example, and you could get a 4 year if you want to combine with your master's. So you have more like 4 years if you want to go into AI from secondary school or from A levels, you can just
Yeah.
go straight into that program, for example. And they cover basically every more expansive amount of knowledge when it comes to AI, for example. They have that in the same program. Now, the new programs they do have, because obviously I mentioned that what I did, at least two, what I did is no longer there. So for the data science and so the new course is data science and AI, and there is an AI for healthcare course. Now, these two courses, are very similar,
Mm.
right? They do cover the basics of machine learning, though under a different name. They cover the basics of maths for AI as well, and they cover a few other things as well. The only difference I would say is because of healthcare, they have a shift towards computer vision a bit more than the general data science and artificial program at the master's level because in healthcare there are issues like in vision issues like reading scans. You want to read a scan, you want the computer to do a scan, or you want a computer to view a picture of a rash or something. So they're more focused, they have a heavier focus on computer vision to identify, different types of diseases, born patterns, and the rest.
Right.
And it's very, very, so it has that tilt towards computer vision, while the other one's a bit more broader, for example. While AI, the main AI course has not changed at all. So it's still the same program they're offering.
Yeah.
For the robotics course, I didn't really do that, so I can't really say, but I think
Yeah.
it's looks interesting when I remember that anyway.
No, that's fair enough. And I think all the information that you shared so far, it was really helpful to understand how the course structure is and how they have divided into different streams. So
Yeah.
it's really helpful. But I think that brings us to a next question, which is how was the teaching methodology? Was it more hands-on? Was it more theoretical? Or was it you study everything by yourself? We are just there to give you guidance. So what was the kind of teaching methodology which was followed at the university?
Slightly different teaching methodologies. Certain courses where we had like pre-recorded videos. I think there was some leniency to the tutors of each program to handle the program. And so for setting programs like machine learning, when I did machine learning, it was focused more on they had like pre-recorded videos.
Mm.
You had to take the videos before the program, and then the way we had a session where we had to discuss what people had read prior to that, and then we were graded based on a coursework where you had to do a project, and then that was the grading system for that. Some other courses were taught in class. So, like the match from you have a lecture, and then we have something called tutorials where they would go through like code with you. They'll give you like a code workshop kind of situation where you try out the code yourself, and then if there's a mistake, you talk to the tutor, something like that. And then they were mostly hands-on, I would say, to a good part. They were mostly hands-on to a good part. Um, I think the only program that wasn't, no, they were mostly hands-on. I think the only time period which wasn't really hands-on, was during the dissertation period. And that's also dependent on your supervisor because I did hear of certain supervisors that were very hands-on,
Mm.
and there were some supervisors that were not as hands-on, for example. So they based on the different personalities. As an international student, it was a bit difficult at first because I was from the station standpoint, I had for my undergraduate, I had a very hands-on supervisor, and I realized very quickly here that supervisors here are not as hands-on. One, in general, and two, there's a real strong notion about the project is for you,
Right.
so you have to do a lot of the brainstorming and concept testing by yourself to an extent. While some people might have like what I had previously was almost like a mutual like throw out idea. I get back criticism about the idea immediately. So it's almost like a more cultured, not cultured, a more guided
Mm-hmm.
direction towards finishing the project. While this one you're somehow free to do what you want. The problem with that is which I realized with some people had an issue with was you have to realize that you have to make up your mind very quickly because time is limited. You have about 4 months to do the project, and your supervisors may not um they may not they may allow you to brainstorm to the end of the project, right? Which you obviously by that point you won't be able to finish. So my advice to people on that would be whatever project you want to do, try and it's going to be very hard to just force your supervisor any way you can to get an idea of what they want,
Mm. True.
right? See how much of that you can do, right? Realistically, right? And start building from that. Because they might come and say, oh, what do you want to do? And that is very good, but can be a trap.
True.
Because
True.
every week where you bring something new, they're like, oh, that's pretty nice. Okay, okay. And you were able to finish your project anyway. But
Yeah.
that was just my experience with the teaching. I asked they were pretty nice. The lecturers were mostly nice. They were mostly nice. You could book office hours with them. We had a system where you could book office hours. They were open to discussions and stuff like that. And it was pretty I think pretty good experience. Also, they will had this stuff like a feedback, which I think they do every year, and that affects how the courses change as well. So if someone complains, like we complain about some stuff, and I hear from people doing the course this year that they've changed some of the stuff.
Mm.
So some courses that we did last year that were open book, this year they're closed exams. Some things that were just presentations, this year they're reports. So each year I think they update their assessment criteria based on feedback and performances from the previous year.
Yeah, I think it's good to know that they listen to students and based on that they make those changes. So the course is continuously improving on year by year basis.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a thumbs up, and I think it's a really good thing from the university side. A follow-up question to the previous one: how was the assessment in terms of difficulty level? Those projects really hard to work on, or was it okay? So yeah, from your opinion, how was it?
From my opinion, I think the coursework, I think depends on your experience with the UK educational system. So if you have coming from a different educational system, another country, for example, you come to UK and the first time you're doing a coursework, especially the reports versions of it may be slightly different than your experience in your home country, for example, because I would say there's a stronger emphasis on originality and critical analysis that there is in a lot of other countries. In my experience, when I did engineering, engineering was obviously had like formulas and the rest. So you're not really having to be critical about stuff. Newton's third law or whatever laws of motion or whatever, they are the laws of motion. So when you answer the question about that, you would just say, "Oh, these are the laws of motion," for example.
Mm.
But the UKI experience with coursework is they want kind of you to criticize it. So even though you're quoting Newton's third law, you're like, "Oh, this law states this, that," but these are the exceptions to Newton's law. These are the problems with Newton's law. This is what, and maybe this is a way to counteract those problems. So they want you to go more in depth, your analysis of problems. The coursework in general, some of them were a bit tricky. Some of them were a bit tricky. For in machine learning, even in maths for AI. We had a report. I think this year they're not doing a report, but last year we had a report which was a bit tricky because you had to get an AI concept, for example, decision trees or Bayesian theorem, and you had to solve it mathematically.
Yeah.
For example, you had to solve it mathematically, not using code, for example. So that means you have to understand the basic maths behind it, and also write a report for that as well. You had to do a few presentations which were also tricky as well because they're very conscious of time management, for example. If you have a slide and your slide's supposed to be 10 minutes and you get to 10 minutes, they will cut you off. So they won't give you extra time for that. So because they're very time conscious because of I think it helps, because in my previous experience, you had 10 minutes and you're supposed to be like, okay, okay, just go on, let's just finish this kind of stuff. But they were like more strict on like, okay, 10 minutes, whatever you can't get jammed in here, you know, we'll mark you based on what we've seen, kind of experience. And I think the courseworks can be tricky, to be fair. They can be um they can be really, really tricky, especially for people that have never had any experience in programming or the rest. But I do think as well, I think right now, with help of AI, your classmates, I'm reaching out to people. I think it's easier to get a gist of how to solve them
Mm.
per se. Because for coursework, I think I don't think it's a hard and fast rule. Obviously, you can't plagiarize and you can't copy, but I think you can get general ideas on how to solve problems, right?
True.
And, and something I've always learned, especially for the programming side of it, for the SIS or AI, is always try to understand the problem before you start working on it. Because if you understand the problem, then you know how to break down what you want to do, even though you might not know basically the code or the structure of how it's going to come out. But if you understand what you're trying to aim to do, it's easier for you to plan it out than just saying, okay, let me start with the technical part. Then you don't really understand what you're doing. You might make certain slight mistakes in your work that you would have not made, for example.
Mm.
But and I've gone on a tangent now, but yeah, I think that's generally my experience with the coursework. I think they're doable.
Yeah.
I think they're doable. I think they're doable. For sorry, let me add this as well. For the dissertation, because the way Aston handles the dissertation for this program, the AI program was to get a list of projects, right? And then what I call it open, what would I call it? A pitch day where its
Mm.
supervisors come and they kind of pitch their project and what they're looking for in a student. And then email the faculty member, the supervisor about the particular project. You get about six picks typically. But also obviously you're supposed to arrange the six picks based on your interactions with the supervisor, you know. And the projects range from different areas.
Mhm.
When I did it, they listed okay programs for AI, for applied AI, for computer science, for this, for that, and you could pick anyone you wanted, but you also have to have a meeting with supervisor and convince supervisor that so that when you submitted your form, your supervisor would approve it, for example. So certain supervisors had more like strict criteria. Okay, you have to have passed this score, get this score in the module. You have to do this, or you have to do that. But
Right.
the projects range from different topics, not specific topics that were taught in class.
Yeah.
That's another thing, not specific topics that were taught in class. They were mostly tied, some of them were mostly tied to the experience of your supervisor. So, I did something related to computational intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Even though for my program, artificial intelligence and business strategy, we weren't doing computational intelligence as a module. So I had to go and request for them to add that module to my coursework, although I wasn't graded on it. So I had to go through the module for me to do that project, for example.
Right.
So you can pick anyone you wanted, but you can pick robotics, you can pick large language models. Obviously, if your supervisor agrees to pick it, you can even pick cybersecurity. So when it came to dissertation, you were a bit more free with it, though the marking criteria for AI and AI business strategy was slightly different because they wanted the guys with business strategy
Yeah.
to be more business inclined, they slightly business inclined. So they wanted a bit slightly different. It's about a few marks different when it came to how you handled your literature review as against your exploration of data, for example. But generally speaking, you could pick anyone you wanted. Generally speaking. Additionally, I forgot to mention, Aston also has a computer science master's program. So apart from its AI, robotics, and data science programs, it has a regular computer science program if someone is interested in that. I just remember that when I was talking about the stations that they offer. So I think from that aspect for the stations, I think also I think it's good to, but not all the time, right? It's good to get to know your supervisor, get to know them as well. And two, I like to they take very seriously is ethics. So they may tell you submit ethics forms, ethics things. It's ideal to submit them on time.
Right.
Don't be Some of us did not submit ours as promptly as we should. Because when you're looking at the project, you're like, oh, I don't really understand what I'm doing, and I don't even know what data I need, this I don't need, for example. But just try if you come to Aston or any school in general, right, to get that submitted on time because there are a lot of problems you could run into if that's not done on time, for example, which no one wants to get into trouble for that.
True, true. Yeah. I think that was a really elaborative and really informative answer. And from a lot of the points that you mentioned, I could recall my dissertation assessment as well. And it was very similar in my university. So I did my master's from Newcastle University in data
Oh
science.
wow,
So it was in 2022 or
that's
21,
interesting.
something like that. So yeah, I could totally agree to all the points that you mentioned. So the next question is mostly around resources. So what kind of resources were provided to you, like compute resources and material you already touched briefly on, like videos. But apart from that, what kind of compute resources were provided to you?
Okay, so at Aston University previously. Or let me say continuously. But so I don't know if in future they will still have this practice. So I have to add that caveat. But when I did the program and when my brother did the program this year, if you were in the master's program, they issued laptops to master students
Right.
to do the AI courses. I don't know about the computer science or robotics courses, but for the AI courses, they gave out laptops to all master students. They used to issue out laptops to the undergraduate students, but they
Mhm.
suspended that program this year. So if you're in the undergraduate AI program, you have to bring your own PC or you have to buy your own PC. But at the master's level, they're still issuing as at this year, or as I said from last year September, they were still issuing out laptops to use to do your projects and the rest. There are also like computer labs where with high computes where you can come and run your programs because when we do come to have our tutorials, they're mostly done in labs for the machine learning program. They're mostly done in labs. And the labs do have access to using compute powered like Google Colabs and the rest. And some of them have like special GPUs as well,
Mhm.
which you could use as well if you have issues with your system as well. We have access to the library. You could for some of the programs we get on Blackboard, you can rent some of the books, textbooks online. You don't have to physically go to the library, but if you want, you can go to the library. You can request. meetings, 15 minutes with your supervisors to talk about problems you're having with study and the rest. You have access to, you could print, I think you have some of, I can't remember how much, but you have a certain amount of money you could use to print if you need to print out information, or because some people are more visual in their learning
Yeah.
listening, so you can use that for example. And I think mostly that. We also have like a research institute as well, which has lectures on different aspects of AI as well, which people you could go and listen to their lectures as well. Or yes, you go and listen to their lectures. So I think those are most of the resources I can think of at the moment that they provide. Laptop access to PCs on campus, library access, faculty access, easy faculty access anyway.
Hmm.
Um, Easy faculty access because although you need to book a meeting, which is ideal, if you get to know the lecturers, you may be able to pop in and pop out without booking meetings.
Yeah.
Like they won't be too offended by that. Then you can also reach them by Teams as well or by email, and you could attend the Research Institute programs. They had a summer school last year, which was about AI for healthcare and safety and which is quite innovative as well. So sharing around that anyway as well.
Yeah, I
Those
think
are
those were the important resources, and I think if a university is providing those things, it's more than enough
yeah,
for a student to cover all the things.
yeah.
And this is something which is new. I have not heard of that they provide laptops to students, because in most of the universities they were providing these cloud compute resources.
Mhm.
So as you mentioned, they stopped doing it for undergrad. They might stop doing it for postgraduate, and they will
Yeah.
provide them the cloud compute resources
Mhm.
in future. So
Yeah.
it could happen. But
Yeah.
I think this was really useful. So that was part one. In next sections, we will talk about the support from career service team, life in general as a student, transportation system, those kind of things, the challenges that he faced and how did he overcome those challenges, and the final most important question, was it worth the money? So we'll talk about all those things in next sections. So the next video should be up by next Tuesday, which is 4th of February 2025. So do keep an eye out for that, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more such videos. See you.